Okay, I'm gonna throw a bowl like this one here. Next class I'll throw kind of like a more closed style, kind of like chili bowl kind of style thing. Um, but just so you can start thinking about making a bowl, this is 2 pounds approximately. If you want it to be easier to center, make it in the middle, make it sort of round. Okay, so here we go. Now it's a little bit more clay, so you're going to need a little bit more force. Remember, things shrink, so that's actually a pretty decent size, good sized bowl. Like 1.5 pounds to 2 pounds. 1.5 pounds is probably fine for like a cereal bowl or something like that. If you're fairly efficient with the clay. Okay, so I'm going to push forward, I'm going to pull back, I'm going to bring this up into a cone. Okay, you can see I have my elbow and my hip, I'm really kind of pushing my body in. And then when I push down, I'm going to push on the top, and I'm going to push forward right next to that. I'm not separating my hands. I'm actually going to bring this up into a second cone. If I want to do that, I kind of try to keep that top rounded. Okay, bring up a second cone. It's called wheel wedging. It kind of helps eliminate cracking on the foot. So, I'll just keep doing what I'm doing, and I'll explain my thought when I get to that point. Okay, so I get my piece of clay center. Notice it's not like crazy wide. I like for my bowls to have somewhat narrow feet so that they have this kind of like sense of lightness to them. If you want a really wide foot, then center it wide and open it wide. I like to have mine, kind of have that sort of upward motion. Okay, so everything up to here is fairly the same. I'm going to drop the hole similarly, keep my wrist low, and I'm going to press on that left middle finger so I have an air bubble. It'll just sort of pop as you go if you're pressing hard enough. Okay, so I'm going to drop it down. And remember when we were doing cylinders, I told you to go down to 1/4 inch so we didn't have to trim the bottom. These ones we are going to be trimming the bottom so that we have a nice tidy looking foot, and so that the pieces will be nice and even. In order to have a nice foot on the bottom, we need to leave some clay, and I want about a 1/2 inch of clay or so. So about that much clay. Maybe I could probably drop it down just another couple millimeters there. So 1/2 inch. Last one I dropped down a little too far. Should be okay. So I'm leaving a little clay to trim. Basically you need the clay for the floor of the piece, and then a gap underneath that so that it kind of sits up above the table. Okay, when we opened up the cylinders, we opened it straight back so that the floor is flat. This one we want to have a curve in the bottom of the piece. So I'm going to open it up into a curve. That way your spoon or your fork or whatever goes all the way down to the bottom, and you can go through the bottom without running into any like pit stops or like barriers. Okay, so what I'm going to do is as I open it up, I'm going to kind of raise my hand up. So a lot of things that we're doing with the bowls are things that I tell you not to do with the cylinders. Mostly because if we start out with bowls, then everything is a bowl, because it can teach you some kind of bad habits as far as if you want to make a good cylinder, tall cylinder, you don't do it like a bowl. Okay, so what I'm doing now is I'm compressing it into a nice round kind of dish shape in the bottom. Okay. Now I'm going to make the volcano. I'm not bringing it in as far as maybe I would bring in something if I was going to make it really tall and narrow. So I have a curve, I have that groove on the inside, and I have this bulk right here that I'm going to pull. When I make the pull, I'm not going to start right at the wall. I'm actually going to start in the middle, and I kind of go along the floor of the piece, and then when I get to the wall, then I make my pull. That way I keep that transition into the wall really nice nice and smooth. So I swoop across the floor, I get to the wall, and then I start pulling the clay up. This first pull is still up and in, just like a regular cylinder, okay? If I start going out now, it's gonna go out of control. So I'll pull it up and in for my first pull, okay? So now the next thing, the next step is the groove, and I need to do, I need to again make sure that I keep that transition into the wall. So I swoop across the bottom, and then I push my finger kind of underneath. Again, you can see my hands are always connected as much as I can. So now I have a nice nice dish on the inside still. I have my groove on the outside. Okay, and so now here's one of the bad habits that I try to get people to stop doing to make a tall cylinder. This pull, I'm actually going to pull the clay out like this, okay? I'm going to start making it a bowl. I'm not going to go all the way out, straight out. I go up in a V shape because I just kind of want it to be kind of up like that. So what I'm going to do, make sure the clay's wet, swoop across the bottom. When I get to the wall, I'm going to grab on, and the flat part of my left hand fingers, okay, is kind of guiding the wall out. So this hand is kind of pulling just a little bit out, and this hand is kind of turning out. My thumb kind of goes up a little bit, and that kind of guides the wall out. Okay, compress the rim, make your groove. I'm going to swoop across the bottom, and then I'm going to grab the clay. You can see I'm not going out to the full width of the bowl yet, but I'm using these fingers here to help move the clay out. I'm still just using this point of my finger to make the pull, but these fingers here, that part of the finger there, is sort of helping guide the clay out a little bit for me. Okay, so this is going to be kind of a ramen bowl. I'm not going to compress the walls. I'm actually going to kind of mess them up a little bit, just for fun. Just to give the outside a little bit of movement. I'm going to get rid of this clay here first, because once you make it a bowl, it's really hard to get to that clay. Oops. Okay. Water at the bottom. Alright, and I've already recorded this demo from my last class. I put it up. And it's from this perspective and this perspective. Now you're going to get that. So the one I'm recording now will be up there as well, so you'll see a couple different perspectives on my hand position and everything. Okay, so for this first shaping, normally when I shape, I have the wooden rib in my left hand, and I'm supporting the outside of the clay with my right hand. I just have more control that way for tall things. For bowls, you want to shape from the top down, okay? If you shape from the bottom up, you'll get the bottom out, and by the time you get to the top, you're putting pressure up here, and it'll kind of twist and collapse around the foot. So if you shape from the top down, it'll stay theoretically a little bit nicer, and it won't collapse around the foot. Okay, so I'm gonna let the clay kind of go out from my my left hand. I hold onto the rib with my right hand, and it's sort of an extension of my arm. Okay, it's an extension of my fingers. I'm not holding onto it like this. Okay, I'm holding onto it with my fingers as tight as I can to make sure I'm holding onto the whole rib. Okay, I'm not just holding onto the end. I do sometimes hold onto just the end, but for this, make sure you really support the whole thing. And then the whole thing, my whole arm sort of moves together, and it pivots at this thumb. Okay, now this happens pretty quickly. What I'm going to do is I'm going to drop my elbow down, and then I'm going to move this rib into the bowl, okay, to create the shape. So I drop my elbow down, and that opens up the rim, and then I move the shape down into the bowl. Drop my elbow down, move the shape down into the bowl. Okay, so I'm getting pretty close to where I need to be. You can see I always drop the rim down first and then move the shape down. In. Okay, once I get to this point, I'm gonna maybe compress the rim just a little bit. Okay. See if I can make it the same size as the other one. Okay, now that I have the general shape done, I need to go through the bottom to make sure that that transition goes all the way through. So what I'm going to do is you can see I'm on my tiptoes here. I plant this arm sort of as a crane, kind of moving into the pot, and then I'm going to hold on to my right hand. So again, I'm still holding on to this really tight, and I'm going to watch the shape happen here. So just kind of move it in slowly, and then I'm going to watch the interior shape. When I get down to here, now I need to press really hard and move through the middle. Okay, so now I have a good transition. I have a weird little fold from when I messed up the outside of the clay. I messed up the inside of the clay. I might not worry about it too much. But now I'm going to take this rib, and I'm going to kind of smooth off the inside here. I'm going to bring it out just a little bit more here. Right now, like I get the shape kind of to where I want it first, and then I can go through and smooth it with a metal rib. And my mask is falling down. Okay, so one more lip compression, and then I don't have to remove any clay because I already did that. I'm going to cut it off, and you can slide it off. We're trimming it, so sliding it off is fine. Sometimes you kind of ruin the look of the bottom when you slide it and cut it off a bunch of times. If you leave enough clay at the bottom here, you can kind of make like little scissors with your finger. Go around. I'm going around the foot. I'm not going around the bowl, okay? Going around the clay that I left in the foot. And then you can just lift it up and set it down. It did all right. Pretty close. All right. And cut. You do that.